So, episode 1, Trapped in the Sky, the first ever episode of Thunderbirds. Now the story here is that the I guess you would call him a terrorist, known only as the Hood, deliberately sabotages this luxurious commercial aircraft, the Fireflash, planting a bomb inside it so that it can't land without it exploding. They exhaust all efforts, but they can't get it to land, and so the Thunderbirds and International Rescue set out on their first ever mission, and of course it's a success.
Yeah, and it's not without fault either. I mean, there's a part when, VIRGIL, when he brings in all the extra equipment from Thunderbird 2 to help the Fireflash down, there's a fault on it, and one of them goes off the rails, ends up blowing up, causing some collateral damage, but you know, when you're weighing up the pros and cons, you're trying to save 600 innocent people, and so a bit of collateral damage should be okay. And we're talking about a guy who's like a billionaire or something, been able to build these amazing, sophisticated aircraft. I think it would be okay for Jeff Tracy to cover it, write it off.
That is good news indeed, Mr. Tracy.
We are introduced, of course, to the Tracy family, headed by Jeff Tracy, the billionaire ex-astronaut, one of the first men to land on the moon. And
apparently.
Yeah, apparently. But I get it's established quite early on that, you know, his wealth is what finances this rescue mission. He's just basically the biggest philanthropist in the world, organising this massive, top-secret rescue organisation.
And the thing is, it's established at the beginning, but kind of forgotten near the end of the episode, that a member of International Rescue is on the Fireflash. This is Tintin Kirano. She's the daughter of Kirano, the kind of like a servant, or no, not really servant, you know, like butler.
Yeah, he's something of a butler. Like back then, I guess he was a manservant, but it's not PC anymore. So kind of yeah.
Yeah, it's also kind of non-PC that they're Asian as well. But we'll leave all this aside because of the historical context. We'll talk about
this was the '60s, of course. So.
Yeah, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
And the interesting thing about Kirano is that he is the half brother of the Hood, and the Hood is able through some kind of psychic connection to, you know, speak with Kirano and get information from him, so...
It's really sinister the way his eyes light up, because they obviously had to put bulbs inside the head of these puppets.
Yeah, I always found it interesting that the Hood had these supernatural powers in this show that is so obviously full of, like, technology and science and stuff like that, and you've got this supernatural element with the Hood's magic powers and the scary glowing eyes that obviously scared kids.
It's kind of a mix of the pulp fantasy and pulp sci-fi that obviously influenced these, and probably much later influenced maybe the likes of George Lucas. Another thing to point out is they never actually refer to him as the Hood.
No, I don't think in any of the episodes, I mean, there's like 9 episodes that I haven't seen. Obviously, by the end of this, I'll have seen them all, but I don't think there's any episodes where he is specifically referred to as the Hood. It's kind of just born out of... Like, I guess, did it come from the books or anything, or...?
I only really knew about it when I read the complete book of Thunderbirds, which I read when I was about 9 or 10, when they had, like, their first or second renaissance on television. But yeah, we've done, like... Well, now we've done the story, let's talk about the machines.
The machines, obviously, like, we see the first take... Because it's the first episode, it's the first time that we see the Thunderbirds actually take off. We see Scott Tracy, who's my personal favourite of the Tracy family, taking off in Thunderbird 1, and then once he gets there, he assesses the situation. That's Thunderbird 1's job. You know, first on the scene, it's the fastest aircraft, and then he gets an idea of what the situation is, phones into Thunderbird 2 to bring all the rescue equipment, and obviously Thunderbird 2, much bigger to carry all of the equipment.
But the thing we forgot about the introduction to the Tracy family is the first Tracy brother you see is actually John Tracy. Now, he's the one who's up in the space station.
Poor John Tracy, just stuck up in the Thunderbird 5, the space station, which is like the central communications hub. It can like pick up broadcasts from all over the world. That's how they know when someone's in distress. They can pick up a broadcast from anywhere in the world, and then John Tracy up in Thunderbird 5 radios down to Tracy Island, gives them the rundown. But, you know, I think everyone who's ever watched Thunderbirds always feels bad for John, because he's up there in the...
Well, we've been debating about this for quite some time now, and we just kind of gathered, or our idea of who John is, if he was a real person, is that maybe he was one of the kind of like the bookish types. Perhaps he liked being on his own, enjoyed reading books, maybe, or maybe he was really into science and wanted to be an astronaut and wanted to explore space, perhaps.
Yeah, probably the more loner of the brothers, but least social. But as it's established in future episodes, he trades shifts with Alan, so maybe they're both like that.
And another thing that I've been trying to point out for a long time is in the introduction to Thunderbirds, when they introduce all the Tracy brothers, they do it in age order. Now, I only knew about this from reading, again, the complete book of Thunderbirds. So it has Scott first, he's the eldest, and it's there's John, Virgil, or Gordon, then Alan. And the thing about Alan is he's the youngest, but he has, I'd say, the most difficult job, the most demanding job, because he's the astronaut in Thunderbird 3. He's got to deal with stuff that isn't going on Earth. He's got to handle really big, quite dangerous space problems, as we'll see in later episodes.
In all honesty, I'd say John's got the hardest job, because he's got to be running Thunderbird 5 24/7, and he's on his own all the... I just feel so bad for John. Let's talk about all the brothers, actually. We talked about, John. Scott he was always my favourite as a kid. He was like the leader, but he also, it's because he was really quick-witted. He was a fast thinker, fast actor. So, that allowed for him to be witty as well as, in control.
The things I do for international rescue.
Virgil, he was the more, he always struck me as just the most sensible one.
He did all the heavy work as well, because he's got to bring in all the heavy equipment in Thunderbird 2.
Yeah, he's probably the most reliable one. Certainly the one you could... If I had needed one of the Tracy brothers to rescue me, I'd get Virgil to do it, let's put it that way.
And Alan was always my personal favourite, because he was the youngest, and because I like space. He had the most interesting job, in my opinion. And a bit of trivia about this episode is he only has one line, which is simply, "Okay, Father." But Alan Tracy in this was actually voiced by a different actor. I can't remember his name, but in later episodes, from episode 2 onwards, he's voiced completely different. He has this accent which is American, but it almost sounds British. It's kind of like an educated American accent, kind of like Fraser and Niles Crane.
I always assumed it was just a straight-on British accent. Maybe it's because of the way he says his O's. It's like Scott rather than Scott. But
well, this is a thing that not many people know about. Only the real Thunderbirds and Jerry Anderson buffs know this, but they only had about 12 voice actors in total for a huge cast of over 50 characters.
Yeah, there's one actor, I've forgotten his name, but he does Brains, Parker, and Gordon. Oh, and that's the next brother that we'll talk about, Gordon. I always thought he was the funniest. Certainly the goofball of the lot. He had his serious moments, obviously, when he's down there in Thunderbird 4, he's obviously, level-headed and in the mission. But, he's always, certainly in a lot of episodes, he's the one who winds up and teases the other brothers.
Yeah, I remember in the Christmas episode, he's always saying, "Oh, can we open our Christmas presents yet?"
Absolutely.
We'll get to that one later. That's one of the latter ones.
That's the last one, actually, the Christmas one, isn't it?
I don't know, I can't remember the chronology, but you never know. We'll let you know as time goes on.
Is there anything else we can talk about with Trapped in the Sky?
Well, I really liked how it's a real race against time, this episode, because at the bit when Virgil is trying to stop Fireflash before it hits the ground and explodes, there's close-up shots of all the puppets, and they've got specks of sweat on their faces, so they're making it look real, okay, come on, sweat, we're gonna do it.
And it's that kind of attention to detail as well that's one of the most enduring things about Thunderbirds, The beads of sweat, probably the little movements of the eyes. It's something that gets better as well, going off topic, I guess, to Captain Scarlet, they made it, more realistic. I think I always found the puppets in Thunderbirds, they were kind of not cartoonish, but, quite... had big heads, expressive eyes, a little bit cartoonish, but Captain Scarlet was more gritty and realistic and human-looking, and there was blood and everything. That was grown-up Thunderbirds.
And the fact that Virgil, nearly ends up getting killed in the midst of saving 600 people, that really makes you go, "Oh my God, is he okay? Is he okay?" Like when Scott yells into the
Virgil!
Into the microphone, Are you okay, Virgil?
Are you okay, Virgil?
Okay, Scott.
Well, that's kind of what you want to say. Are you okay? My God, what happened?
Yeah, Thunderbirds, for what it is, a little show about models and puppets, but it captures tension so much. And you'll find that there's a lot of episodes that are very much that kind of race against time formula. But as it goes, Trapped in the Sky for the first episode is a very standard Thunderbirds episode. It does pretty much, I think, what it set out to do. It sets up what Thunderbirds is, sets up international rescue, introduces you to the Tracy family and what they're all about, and introduces you to the Hood as well, and his motive of trying to steal Thunderbird's secrets. Oh, and Lady Penelope. Yes. We're introduced to, of course, the ever-loving London agent, Lady Penelope, who's a fan favourite. Her and, of course, the ever-loving Parker.
Yes, milady.
Yes, milady.
Yes, milady. Very well, milady.
Oh, yes, milady.
Who's one of my all-time favourite Thunderbirds characters, because he's just, this elderly butler who's just like, well, yeah, yes, milady.
And he's an ex-con as well, established in later episodes.
Yeah, an ex-safecracker, and he apparently was one of the greatest safecrackers ever, and now he just works for Lady Penelope.
He's like a reformed character, so imagine him being a granddad teaching you how to be like a super spy or something.
Yeah, this guy's like, almost like Mike from Breaking Bad, but like the exact opposite. This is a guy who went from bad to good, reformed, and uses his skills for good now. So we're introduced to, Lady Penelope and Parker and Fab 1, which, despite being pink, I always thought that car was cool. But
because it's equipped with guns, as we see in this episode.
Really cool.
Because even though, well, you might as well say it was for, like, the girls' fans, but no, it's for everyone, really. It's anyone who likes action.
Yeah, absolutely. But great first episode to start us off with, and we'll have more episodes to come. I think the next one is Pit of Peril.
Yes.
But we'll get to that one next. But
feeling really hyped now that we're revisiting childhood, and it's still got the charm that still brought us in as children.
Yeah, we've come away with this great nostalgic feeling, having just watched something. I haven't watched Thunderbirds in years, but it's just all coming back to me, how great the show was. All the little, things about it that I like, the idiosyncrasies, like, the hands, the human hands, whenever it cut. It would always, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, the puppets would lean forward to grab something, and then it would show a very human hand picking up the exact same thing. And I suppose, obviously, oh, it's a human hand, but that's the novelty of it. Like, I think that's one of the endearing, running things that make Thunderbirds Thunderbirds.
Yeah, because Thunderbirds, I think the reason for that is because they had to spend all their budget on making these models, so they had to use real hands, and in a way, it makes it more human. Because it feels like as if you're there in the future. This is what it would look like if it was like through your eyes only, as if you were this character doing this.
Yeah, it's that same kind of like novelty feeling that you get from seeing like all these models exploded. Yeah.
Well, this really, I'd say, is like our tribute to the late Jerry Anderson, who passed away 3 years ago. So this is us saying, you still live on in our minds, all us big science fiction and fantasy and future fans. We're still loving your work,
And if the recent remake, isn't evident enough that people still love his work, then this is certainly our testament to how great and how much we love Jerry Anderson. But more episodes to come. I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. We're still finding our footing because this is episode 1. But, hopefully we'll just get into the habit of it and just be churning out greater content. But anyway, we'll see you next episode. See you later.
FAV.
FAV.